So when I was younger, I thought Charlie Sheen in Two and a Half Men, so Charlie Harper in that sense, was a great guy, and he had it all. And I didn't realize that he is this emotional wreck that can't keep relationships, and that he's actually, a person to feel sorry for also in the series. I just saw this person who's successful. And I thought that would also be something I would need to strive for some time in my life, until I realized that's not worth it. That's not bringing me happiness either.
We first met in high school, and then we met again in university, and then we met again after university. Yeah,
and it was three different people we met every time, right?
Exactly. That's what I thought. Yeah, very like three different Lukases, I would say, because he really developed in 3 stages in that, like, since I know him, I would say, like pre-study, during study, post-study, and then actually, like, then we lost a bit touch, and then we got we got to know each other again now over the past 2 years.
I mean, it's a huge time of change, right? Between being a stupid teenager and being halfway grown up now.
And you being a stupid teenager.
Sometimes I'm still like that, but
that's why I'm saying halfway grown up.
Yeah, let's try never to lose the youthfulness. How are you feeling, Lukas?
Feeling good. Actually excited to start podcasting. It's my very first, and
okay, can I get a? Oh yeah. Can I get a cue? Hello and welcome back to Hearts Wide Open, the men's health podcast, bringing you new episodes every other week. Today we have another really, really exciting guest for you. His name is Lukas, and he's gonna say hi in a second. Soroosh, do you want to also say hi?
No, today I'm not gonna say.
Bro, please. Okay, so Soroosh says hi too. Thank you for really being a team player on this intro.
They know me by now, hopefully.
Yeah, you do exactly the opposite of what is expected of you. That's amazing. So Lukas is here with us today, and Lukas and I actually went to high school together, and then we also studied in the same university. And yeah, we just talked about this before the podcast, but I feel like we met in 3 stages, because I feel like I met 3, maybe even 4 different Lukases in these stages of lives that we shared. So like before the studies, so in high school, and then during studies and after studies, and then after that, he even had some more development. Like he really reinvented himself along the way, or like upgraded himself. Like maybe not a complete reinvention, but like he's really into personal growth, I would say, and he doesn't shy away from the discomfort that also comes with that. And professionally, he works at a big tech company in the sales department where he sells cloud solutions, if I'm correct. And he's also an influencer and advocate for the equal parenting model. So currently he spends half his time watching after his newborn son, who is now, I would say, 5 months old.
Yeah, almost 4 months.
Almost 4 months. There we go. And so we're super excited to have you here today and talk about that and more. So give a big, big welcome to Lukas. Hey!
Hey! Welcome, Lukas.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. Really excited to be here and to talk to you today. And I think men's health is really, really important and something we don't talk enough about.
Yes, and I think that's also why we find it so interesting to have you as a guest, because from what I've seen on your Instagram, on your social media as well, where you advocate for this equal parenting model that you're doing with your wife together. I also saw that you shared that you get a lot of backlash for doing this as a man. So hence the relation to men's health, and hence we wanted to interview you. And maybe we can get started by just explaining what is equal parenting, like beyond the word equal. Like it seems like you're doing it together, but how would you explain equal parenting to a newbie?
Yeah, but there's different terms for it. One is equal parenting, the other one is equal care. And I just saw a hashtag recently that was share the care. And that is what equal parenting is really about sharing the care work. So basically, instead of having just one person in the relationship take care of the kid, you split forces, and basically one of them takes care for some part of the time, and the other for the other part of the time. In our model, we switch by days. So for me, it's, for example, Tuesdays and Thursdays and Saturdays that I take care of my kid, and my wife takes the other days. And then the Sunday is the family day. So that's how we live the model. But there can be different interpretations for it, of course.
Just wondering, how does it look like in practice? Because you said you divide those days up, so it's mostly 50-50, and then the Sunday you do it together. But I can also imagine that you also share on those days some things. I mean, probably is not only you. Like, how does that work on a day like today, for example? I think we're recording on a Thursday, so it's your day today, but you're here with us on the podcast. So, like, how do you like navigate in the gray space?
And so right now, one of the biggest challenges is actually the nursing, right? So our child is being nursed, and me, I can't do it in the same manner that my wife does it. So that's actually one challenge to tackle, and we tried to do that by giving the bottle as well as nursing him. So by pumping the breast milk into a bottle, and that kind of sets the boundaries right now, because in the first at least 6 months he's only getting fed with that milk, right? So right now, my wife is working from home a lot to be able to nurse him in between the days. So that's a lot of pressure on her as well, right? Because she doesn't have the full freedom on those days. But she also goes into the office, and then I take the milk that that she pumped, and then I give it to him with a bottle. But then, yeah, we try to make everything work and to find a balance on those days. So at night, it can be nice for her to take care of him when she's back, and the same goes for me. And we try not to be too strict about it, but to be a bit flexible and try to see how the days come, and then how we can best navigate it with the forces we have.
Okay, it sounds like you've got it all together, but like I can also imagine there's some struggles, or there were struggles at the start.
There's different types of struggles, actually. Like I also do lots of working from home right now, in order to be able to take the kid when he's sleeping, also in the carrier, and so my wife can do something else. And working from home with a kid at home is a bit different than before, because you're a bit distracted whenever he makes some noises or so. You kind of just want to go over there and be there. And that's actually a big challenge. But that's just a personal challenge, right? But for example, on the job end, I also face a couple of challenges, because now I work part-time in a role that, there's not many people that do part-time in that role. And it's not highly valued, I would say, amongst my colleagues, and especially with my employer. So it's a new one, and I'm trying that model, because in Germany they have to enable it. Companies have a certain size; they have to enable you to do this part-time model. This is currently a struggle I have, because of course the things move on in the job, right? I'm not there for some of the appointments and the meetings that we have, that makes me feel a bit left out on the job. And since it's also a big part of the life, it's something that I currently try to get comfortable with.
Mm. And is this something you could address at work, or like, do you know that people don't necessarily like what you're doing, or the fact that you're less present or less often?
I think it's twofold, right? So I think the people around me, most of them, they have an understanding for it, and they're fine with it, like my direct colleagues. But I think the people that have the power to make me move forward in my career, they don't like to see it. And it's not really easy to change their mind or possible, right? Because they did it in a different way usually. Usually the people that manage me or that manage the people that I'm being managed by, they're these career beasts, right? And they set their priorities differently. And for them, it's hard to understand that, yeah, this kid wants both. And yeah, that's for them probably just something really, really weird.
Soroosh, did you work in a startup, but also in tech? Do you think you could just move to 50% if you had a kid?
Are you asking me right now?
Yeah, like just to get a second perspective on this, because Lukas is obviously doing it, but I'm not sure. Like
the possibility of if I could, yeah, but do I want to do it? No, because I do believe, in my mind, in my perspective, if you do this, I do believe it slows down the speed that you can grow within your field. Career-wise, yes. Because I feel like in order to grow in my career, I need to be there a certain amount of time to make connection to people. And sometimes this requires you to be there. And if you're not there, you have to work harder on the times that you're not there, which some people still could do. But for me, it's difficult. But I also see the contradiction. If I have a child, when I have a child, I would want to also be with the child. This is also the thing.
And
so I think
there's one thing that I tend to disagree with a bit, because you said you would slow down the growth, but I must say I haven't developed this rapidly before, like for ages, as I'm developing now, since I'm a dad, because I have to prioritize really, really regular. How do you say it? Rigorously, something like that. And you have to be really to keep your times, be really, really organized. You're taking it's a lot of responsibility as well. So it's actually a huge development, and I feel that I'm not the same person, probably the same person, but I definitely grew since I became a dad. And I also learned things that I can implement at work.
Do you have like an example of things that you can implement at work that you're learning at home, for example?
Yeah, like prioritizing, right? So to be really, really straight about what is important for me to take care of on a certain day. And also valuing the time that I have, because if I have a choice to work or to just browse the internet and procrastinate at work, then the choice has become a lot clearer now.
But you always had this choice, right? Even before having a kid, you had the time, but you chose to spend it on social media.
Or somewhere else.
Or somewhere else, anywhere.
Yeah.
But now having a kid pushes you to reduce the wasted time.
It just makes me really think about what I want to get done in a day, and then focus on that.
Exactly.
And I also see it like that's one of the things I try to do in my work life, to not look at the time that I work, but on the things that I get done. And if I get things done faster, then I'm more efficient. I'm able to do things at home as well, and not work overtime, for example.
What I hear is that you say it is actually possible to do it all, or to do both, let's say, like advance in your career, but also be present with your son and do the equal parenting. But yeah, you have to really learn how to prioritize and time management and like the things you get done. So you really have to actually work harder to reach the same goals as your full-time colleagues, let's say. You had to also drop some things that you were doing before you had a son. That's prioritization. I can imagine that you're like sometimes really stressed and there's a lot of burden on you. So like, I'm wondering, how does it work for you? Like, how do you handle this extra stress, and like what are the things that you actually cut out of your life to make time?
I don't believe I can go the same places as my colleagues can right now. So I'm definitely taking a step back in the career. It's not working like I do the full career thing and I'm being involved there. I definitely pause the development and just do the job. And that's two different things, right? And on the stress side, I'm actually still in the process of figuring that out, because for now, we were in the survival mode, right? In the first couple of months, the kid had to survive. We had to survive. We had to learn so much stuff. So the priorities were really clear on eating, on sleeping, on talking to each other to get comfortable with everything that happened, right? And then everything else fell down on the other end. So, for example, doing sports or meeting friends, that all went away for some time. And now we are currently in the process of getting these things back into our life. So we started seeing people again and prioritizing differently, being able also to organize the day a bit better and to be able to plan. And but I'm still not doing any sports. So that's something that I still want to get back into my life, because it's always great for me if I do sports, and I love to run, for example. But yeah, the priorities have been really clear in the beginning, and now we are juggling them a bit to find the right balance going forward.
Okay. I had a question that maybe is not in the rhythm of the parenting thing. This is just, I'm curious. This is something that I'm curious nowadays about. That what is a narrative that you tell yourself about you? Who is Lukas in your mind?
That's a good question. So right now, my number one priority is definitely my family. So I would say being an involved dad is my number one priority right now, and being able to raise a son that knows that I love him, and that I'm able to transfer some values to. That's really important to me. And that's the current stage, right? And I can see that changing again at some point, because life goes on, right? At some point, my son is probably too grown up to hang around with me, and then priorities change again. But I think that's my number one priority right now, the family.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm not sure if that is enough of a narrative for you, or if you want to look something else.
Well, in my mind, well, if this is what it is, I think I wanted your answer. Is, for example, in my mind, I say Soroosh is a person that is what I tell myself, right? Is a person that is hardworking, try to be there with his friends, and care about other people. This is the narrative that I tell myself. Do you tell yourself Lukas is the person that is a great dad, or is trying to be a great dad?
Yeah, so that's the dad part, and then just getting the most of life, right? And being able to make time for the things that I like to do. And so basically hardworking wouldn't be something that would be in my narrative, because that's not a priority of mine, right? So I want to get things done, but I think efficiency is also something that I strive for. And if I can get the things I want to get done in less time, then I'll do it in less time.
And then going back to your first point, what do you think is a good dad?
Yeah, I think there's lots of different versions of good dads. So I also want to be clear that I don't think that this equal parenting model is the one thing that everybody should do, because it really depends on the personal situations of families. And I think the same is true for dads. I think you can be a great dad in different ways. For me, time spent with the kid is really important. So from my perspective, for me as a dad, it's something that I think makes me a great dad, being able to just spend this time together that will never come again, because you will never be able to see the kid develop again, and to bond in the same way that you do now. and that's really important to me. But I think other versions of great dads is, for example, people taking care financially if they're in a bad situation, right? So because there's this pyramid of needs that you have, right? And I think it's called Maslow pyramid or something like that. I'm not 100% sure. And we are in a privileged situation where we are not threatened by anything. There's no war in our country. We are financially stable. So we have a lot of the basics covered. And I'm really focused on something that is on the very top of the pyramid, which is spending time together and spending this quality time. And that's what I think makes me a great dad now. But I think people in other situations, they can also be great dads if they just protect their family, if they're threatened by anything, or if they take care of them financially, if they're in a tough situation there. So I don't want to tell anybody that they are a bad dad because they are doing something differently than I am.
Yeah, like very interesting to hear as well, because like I remember me growing up, I think my mom was mostly at home with the kids, with us, like 5 days a week. My dad, we barely saw him during the week, came back late in the evening as well, sometimes even like late for dinner. And we mainly just saw him on the weekends, but like, yeah, he was strongly focused as well on just making a living for the family in that period. So like, I do respect and appreciate that a lot. At the same time, I kind of wish that he was there more during the week as well, because like I started being like a rebel kid and having a lot of issues with my mom, and I think a lot of times she was really overwhelmed with me, and I think having my dad there would have been a nice balance for me growing up. But yeah, I think there were other needs at play as well. Yeah. So yeah, it's a bit of a different. Like just hearing that, it's beautiful to me to hear that this is possible for you, and I do think like it's also really nice that you're also emphasizing that you're really privileged for being able to do this. Yeah. At the same time, I think you're a great example doing it. Yeah. So shout out to you.
Thank you. I also think that, I mean, there's people, also dads, that focus on the bottom part of the pyramid, which is financial stability, a bit too much, right? Because you can always want more. In our society, there's always this, oh, I need a bigger car, I need a bigger house, I need a bigger whatever. It's also part of prioritizing what you need most, right? And we would be financially better off if we did things differently. But since we are also doing okay without that, yeah, we made the choices that we made. And I think if you are in a privileged situation, yeah, it also has to cross your mind that you might want to deprioritize more wealth for more time, for example.
Yeah, so like knowing, okay, this is enough wealth, we can support ourselves. I want to focus on other aspects of the pyramid, so to say.
Exactly. So I, for example, I drive a teeny tiny Skoda Fabia, and we have a car, which is great, right? But it's a tiny car. And I would say most of my colleagues have cars that are 10 times worth as much. And that's like one example where we are like, okay, but we just don't need that. And yeah, but we need the time, and we take it.
Yeah, especially with cars, I feel like I'm prejudiced, but I feel like it's also such a status symbol. And I think spending time with your kid is like something real that you cannot replace with a nice car. Like, impossible.
I completely agree. But I also think this Maslow triangle pyramid is a recent thing. For example, with my dad and his grandparents and the older generation, I feel like I don't know, it's easy to say that if you have enough money, then go focus on the other side of the pyramid or triangle. Because I feel like maybe back then there was not the knowledge that is available nowadays, that, hey, maybe a kid that needs money and safety and food and home and a ceiling also needs you being there and time and this kind of stuff. And I think back then, I don't know, if a family was poor and a boy in that family grew up thinking that I couldn't buy stuff that my friend had, therefore I didn't have money, and therefore I couldn't get what I wanted, I was not happy, I will grow up being a kid that thinks money will bring me happiness. So I work so much to get to somewhere, to have all the money in the world, because I think the idea of happiness is money. It's sometimes difficult to get these people out of this loop. So, hey, it's enough. Well done. You made a good amount of money.
Yeah.
But now it's time for other stuff.
I think this is a really interesting point you're raising. In the past, we've learned from how we were raised, how our parents have raised, how the kids in our neighborhood maybe are raised, our friends are being raised. Those are the things we can see. And then nowadays we have access to the internet. I'm sure that Lukas and Lena, his wife, also did a lot of research on equal parenting online, talked to people that they maybe didn't know before on like how it works. So you get access to all this new information that our parents didn't have access to. The second point is that you actually have to step out and decide, I want to do something differently. And maybe if you grew up in poverty, you think, okay, I want to have a kid that doesn't grow up in poverty. But are you then thinking of the kid or just thinking about your own experience growing up? Because likely your kid is already not as much in poverty as you are, because of like, yeah, you know about this and you're trying to make it different, but just doing the opposite, making a lot of money, is not necessarily best for your kid either, and then it might miss something else. And we can never hit all the boxes. I think we're always gonna have some things that can be better, and we're always gonna make mistakes raising kids. It's this like really beautiful thing of actually reflecting and understanding, this is how I was raised, and I want to do it not the opposite, but I want to do some things differently, and then going out there and researching and then actually doing it different. That requires effort, because you're not doing the same that happened to you. You're doing something new. And yeah, I think also role models play a big role. Like your own parents can be your role models, like TV personalities can be your role models. What kind of situation? Because you were not raised in the equal parenting model, as far as I know, and you have decided to do something different and something new.
I can relate to what Soroosh also just shared, that if you grew up in a certain way, then you might want to do it the opposite. So I think that was kind of what my dad did. And he was really focused on providing this financial stability and wealth for the family. And that came at a cost of him not being there during the week for a large time of my youth. So he was only there on the weekends. And this was his priority, and that's I fully respected, of course. I mean, it was his choice. But that's where I come from, right? And I told myself I want to do that differently. I want to be there, and not only at night for dinner. I just want to really, really be involved and have an emotional connection to my child. And yeah, I think you have to invest time to get this emotional connection. But for a long time, so when we met in university, Dennis, I was still striving for something similar, for this, for providing wealth for my family. That was my number one goal, and I thought I would have a wife someday that stays at home and takes care of the kids, because I'll provide the wealth. So I wasn't reflected back then and knew where I wanted to be. I learned that pretty quickly with my first couple of jobs that made me a good amount of money for a job starter, but they didn't make me happy, and I didn't have the time to achieve happiness outside of work. So I realized that pretty quickly. And then came a process of finding the right balance afterwards. I wasn't thinking about kids at that point of time in detail. But I had different people in my life as well. So one other thing was TV personality, actually. So when I was younger, I thought Charlie Sheen in 2.5 Men, so Charlie Harper in that sense, was a great guy, and he had it all. So he was it was something, this image of a man that I thought did something right. And I didn't realize that he is this emotional wreck that can't keep relationships, and that he's actually, a person to feel sorry for also in the series. I just saw this person who's successful. And I thought that would also be something I would need to strive for some time in my life, until I realized that's not worth it. That's not bringing me happiness either. Charlie Sheen, he had time, right? So he wasn't this hard worker. He was just privileged and had a lot of time. But he also, to me, didn't grasp happiness either. And then there was one last person that really impacted me and that I looked up to for the way he did things. And it was my host dad in the United States. So I stayed in the States for a year during high school. And he was hosting me with his family. And he was so different from my own dad that he really made me think. And he really had a big impact on me as well. And because he was around a lot. He was also working a lot, but he was working remotely, so he could still spend lots of time with the family. And I thought it was great. So that was also a person that really made me reconsider what's important.
Okay, so you went from watching TV with Charlie Harper, having a different girl every night, lots of big cars, nice home by the beach, making lots of money with little effort actually, and being this toxic male, let's say, to experiencing a different type of father figure on your exchange into the US, yeah?
Basically, but back then I didn't realize it to that extent, right? So basically, I was still thinking after I went to the US, I still thought that Charlie Sheen was great, right? So that came a lot of time later that I really reflected what it meant and that I really took the lessons away from it. That came a bunch of years later.
Would you say that's something that every father or every future father should have done? Reflect on your own upbringing and childhood before putting a child in the world yourself?
That will happen automatically when you're about to have a child. So that kicks off a process of reflection, of thinking about how you grew up, what you want to do differently. So I don't think you have to have it all figured out before you plan to have a kid. Or also if there's an unplanned kid, there's still time to figure it out. And so I don't think there's a need to have it all set before you get started on that.
Are you, for the times that your dad wasn't there and maybe you wished him to be there, are you angry at him, or were you angry at him at some time?
I wouldn't call it anger. I was sad at times, definitely. I remember when I was a kid and he left on a Sunday night. I was sad, definitely. But I wasn't angry, like at no point, neither when I was young nor now. I respect his choice, especially now. I think back then I wasn't really thinking about it in that way of making choices and so forth. It was just set, right? I mean, if your dad has a certain job, you don't really question it. So I wasn't really thinking about that in that way back then. I was just being sad when he left, basically. And today I still respect his choice. I know where he's coming from. I see how we came into that prioritization mode. So that's fine. And
Okay, yeah. Like I think also, at least like the way, like we also talk about it on the podcast before, but also offline, that like for me, for example, as I'm growing up and as I'm now reflecting a lot on my upbringing and my past and my childhood, like the first impulse is a lot of times maybe not anger, but like a negative emotion towards like things that I went through as a kid, even with my parents as well. Like that's a lot of times the first impulse. Like I was angry with my dad, or I was not happy with how he handled that situation. And then as I spend more time with it and talking about it to friends or also my parents themselves, I get more information, get more reflective, and also start accepting and understanding better why they did what they did and where that came from. At the end, I'm left more like with understanding, not necessarily that I'm happy with how things went down, but at least I understand why they went down. And now I also understand that now it's up to me for my own life, but also if I have children in the future, like that's up to me how I handle that. And that's very liberating, I would say. But yeah, the first impulse is a negative one as well. And like there were times where I was like really pissed at my parents, and then later, yeah, now I'm actually calm and I'm fine, and I understand they were just trying to do their best, you know.
They tried their best, and I'm 100% convinced that my parents always tried to do the best they could and the best they knew of. And when you have that thought in your mind, then there's no need for anger in that sense, right? Because I get angry at somebody if I have the feeling they want to harm me or wanted to harm me, and I don't think that was ever the case. So I don't think there's a need for overthinking the past and making somebody justify something if you believe in the good intent behind their actions. So that's something I also took away from it. And I don't want to discuss things that I wasn't happy with in my childhood with my parents. I also don't want them to feel sorry for it or apologize for it, because I think that there's no need for it if they had good intentions the whole way. And I think parents tend also to get really super defensive about it when you start talking about this kind of stuff.
Sorry, just for the people that are on audio only, like both Soroosh and I started smiling bright, like very wide when Lukas just said that. Because I think we feel you.
Yeah, and it's a normal reaction, right? They invested so much into that process, and now you're challenging it. And what they need to understand when you speak about it is that you don't want them to feel bad or apologize or whatsoever, that it's just a reflection that you are sharing and that it's part of your personal journey to reflect on that. But I think, when having these types of conversations, you first have to get on that same page, because working on yourself and reflecting is not something that has been done by everyone in the past generations, right?
Indeed. And now that at least the people on this call, I would say, we're more privileged than our parents, I think, and a lot of our listeners too are from more privileged background as well. We can actually think about how we want to do things for ourselves, and that's beautiful. So. And we're very lucky to be born in this time. Like, imagine if we were 80 years ago, 100 years ago. I recently talked to my great aunt about those times. That was very different. Like, my family in Germany, they like some of them even live together in the same house with the grandma. Like, that would be interesting.
That's also something when I tell somebody from another generation what I'm doing with equal parenting and that I'm stepping back with hours from work, they're like, das hätte es früher nicht gegeben. So they basically tell me that wouldn't have been possible in the past. And they don't always understand why I'm doing that, or that's also okay.
That's also a lot of the backlash you're getting online, right? Like, people like this who just don't understand your situation and why you're doing this, because they never seen someone like doing equal parenting or something like that.
It really depends on who you're talking to, right? And there's definitely some pushback, and I think it might come from a similar direction that when you are telling your parents you would have done something differently, because they're usually also parents, or they have a certain picture of themselves being parents. And if you tell them that there's a better way, or you suggest there's a better way, then they become defensive. Right, and then they tell you that it's a stupid idea and that you shouldn't do that because it's easier than actually thinking about it on your own and reconsidering whether you're on the right way.
Well, you're just there, like, I don't think you're even saying that your way is a better way. You just have a different way, and you're sharing about it because, like, some people might take it as an inspiration and like try it out as well.
So what I do say is that in every relationship where you have kids, it should be an open discussion with the two partners. Can also be more partners depending on the type of relationship you're having, right? But it should be an open discussion who has which roles and responsibilities. There shouldn't be a default to push the woman into the care work. That's not okay. Because when I became a dad, I was shocked by the degree to which there's still inequality between the genders. Because the default is always mom does it. Mom is responsible. Mom steps back from the job. And I don't think that's okay. I would like to challenge every dad to have this discussion with their wife and have it openly. Don't have any expectations. but have an open discussion and see where it goes. There are also women who like to do the care work 100%, and that's okay. Then there's dads who like to do that, and that's okay. But you have to be open about it. You have to discuss it openly. Otherwise, you're putting people into drawers, and that's that shouldn't be the way it goes.
Even if you're not doing the equal parenting as a man, like let's say you still go to work every day, then to at least think about, okay, how can I still create emotional connection that I'm happy with my child, right? Like even if I am home less or spending less time with the kid.
Exactly. Yeah. And then, I mean, you quickly become a fun dad, right? If you don't take on responsibility. And I think the connection grows if you also go through the tough times. If you don't always bring the kid to the mom when it screams, but you also try to figure out what's the need of the kid. If it needs to be nursed, okay, then the mom can take care of it. But if there's another need that the baby has, you should be able to identify it, because then you can also be a person that the kid can rely on.
Lukas gave a beautiful summary in the end as well, and like shared his views and lots of wisdom, I think, that we can learn from when parenting in the future, maybe the two of us, but everyone listening who wants to start a family or is about to start a family or in the process of or already has a kid. Thank you so much for sharing all this. If you speak German, I also really nudge you to follow Lukas on his Instagram, Vollblutvater. We will put the handle in the description as well as his website, vollblutvater.de. He shares a lot of wisdom on parenting, and actually, like on a daily basis, I see reels of him going for walks with his kid and talking about the struggles and the beautiful side of equal parenting. One other thing that we touched upon before, because Lukas and I are both suffering from it, is it's called Alopecia barbae. And this is a medical condition.
Alopecia.
And this happens a lot, especially to men. This is the version of the I don't know how to call it, sickness, disease, not sure, that causes your beard to like slowly leave you, or like you start having bold patches around your beard. And I will lift my chin now for the video listeners, and you can see two bald spots here. I think they're growing back already. Lukas, you also had or have this or experienced this. And we think that a lot of other men too are, because when you told me about it, I was like, damn, I also have this. And then I was thinking, if just two of us, this is the first time I hear about it, that another man also has it. If just two of us are struggling with it, probably there's a lot of other men out there too who are wondering why their beard is slowly leaving them. Lukas, have you thought about this or researched this? Like, where could it come from? I read something like when your immune system is weakened, or when can also be a response to stress or pressure.
So first of all, most importantly, it's not only the beard, right? So I also had it in the face, but I don't really wear a beard, so I wouldn't have bothered. But I also got it on the head as well. I had it in the back, on the sides. It's also growing back now, but it was really different places. It's a reaction mainly to, in my case, it was stress. When it occurred, I was aware that my brother had the same thing a couple of years back. So I reached out to him, talked to him about it, what he did, and he also told me that he reduced the level of stress that he had by prioritizing. And then I really started talking openly to friends about it. When they asked me how I'm doing, I actually told them about it, because I like to tell people actually how I'm doing when they ask me. And a lot of times I got the reaction, hey, I have the same thing, or I had the same thing, from other men. And that actually showed that a lot of people are affected by it. And then I found out that it's more of a long-term issue. So in the short term, it's really hard to tackle and take care of it. But everyone told me reduce the stress, change something in your life. And what you can do is you can put some things on it to make you grow back, but it's not really, I'm not sure if it works. But for me, it helped to reduce the stress.
Those magical hair growth products that a lot of men are being sold. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a long-term issue, right? So I first had it I noticed it, I think, in May or June last year. And then the peak was reached in the end of last year, so 6 months later. And now it's slowly growing back, and I'm almost a year in, right? So that's quite a long time. And I reduced the stress. Before I became a dad, I did a lot of different stuff, right? I had work, I just got a new job. I had a lot of stuff going on in my private life, also some things that really were hard on me. And then I additionally became a dad, and then you start researching about that too, and you take care of the kids' room and try to support your wife as well as possible. And so it was just, the sum was too much. And then some of these things calmed down by themselves because they were because I was able to reflect on them, really work on the issues I had in my private life, and get a bit more comfortable with that and process them. And on the other end, there was also some stuff that I organized back then that calmed down, that were just done at that point. And for the job, it's not always a new job, right? So the process took a while, but at some point I reached a point where the stress was definitely reduced massively.
Thank you for sharing this. I think a lot of men are actually experiencing this. If you, our listener, are one of these men, then do send us your story as well. Tell us what you think is the cause for you. Is it stress? Is it an overwhelm? Is it pressure in your personal life? Has something changed at work or at home that makes you feel different? We'd love to hear your story. You can send us voice messages. It's just below the description to the podcast. There's a link, and you can click on that and send us a voice message. We might play it as well on the podcast. Share your story and let us know what's getting you stressed, or what is making your immune system weak and leading to this hair loss, at least what you think. And also, if you've already thought about it, what are you going to do about it? Like, what kind of things are you going to reduce in your life to become more balanced and integrated? With this, we're moving towards the end of the podcast. But before, we would like to bring back a format we haven't done in a while, which is called the quick fire. With us, it's sometimes also a not so quick, slow fire, because we like to ask follow-up questions. But this is the format where we ask a couple quick questions to our guests to understand a little bit better who they are and how they relate to different topics surrounding the topic of men's health. And I think Soroosh actually brought a few cool questions.
Is there something that you wish people knew more about you?
No. I mean, the people that are close to me, they know the stuff about me, and there's not really something that I wish people knew more about me.
Fair enough. That's a new one.
It's interesting. So you don't feel like you're misunderstood by the people who are around you?
I can't be the one worried about everyone else understanding me, right? That's not my job. And I think if that's something, if you end up in this cycle, you start overthinking what other people think, and then you think about their expectations and how you deliver on them and so forth. It's just a vicious cycle, in my opinion. And so it's okay. Like the extent to which they know me is fine, and if they want to know more, then we can happily engage. But I don't expect them or want them to know more.
To stop caring what other people think about you, I think that's one of the end levels of development, to be honest.
I think this is different.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
What other people think about you, I look at it differently as I wish people could see me for who I am. This is more what I'm asking. And what I'm asking is, are people seeing you for who you are? And if no, what is something that you wish people...
But that means that you care what other people think about you, because you're thinking about what other people think about you, right?
And you don't think...
Because if you don't care what other people think about you, then you don't have the urge to show yourself more, because if someone's interested, they can come to you. That's how I understood it.
And I mean, there's some people around me that know me really well, and for example, my wife. And I've, of course, if she had a bad opinion of me, then I wouldn't feel good, and then I would want her to understand me. But yeah, there's nothing she doesn't know about me, for example, and.
Okay.
Yeah, but other than that, I'm not sure. There's no one where I would walk up and try to make them understand something. Of course, I know some people don't understand me. There's conflicts in my life that are also ongoing where people apparently don't understand me, but it's not my job to make them understand me. And their way of thinking might also contradict who I am. So it might just not work out. And
what spaces do you feel uncomfortable or less comfortable in, or what situations?
Sometimes I just like to be for myself. So I also, when I went to the office before being a dad, I sometimes had lunch on my own, and I really enjoyed it. And sometimes I don't feel very comfortable socializing. I have days where I'm super hyped and I could talk to everybody, and I have a big smile on my face. And I have days where I'm like, okay, today I just don't want to. And then I don't feel comfortable with a lot of people around me. And then I like to be a bit more on my own or with people that are really close to me.
I have a quick one. Is there something during the interview that we didn't ask you and you wish we were, or you wanted something to talk about?
When you said earlier that the Vollblutvater thing, that is my name on social, I have a funny story to that. It's more of a bonus. When you Googled Vollblutvater, before I started doing social media, Google would suggest that you might mean Vollblutmutter instead and show you the results for Vollblutmutter, because it didn't recognize Vollblutvater as a thing. But
just to tap in here for a second, because we have English listeners. Vollblutvater is a German word, and it basically means father with full blood, like with full commitment, fully committed father or something like this. But I'm sure you're actually going there now. So.
Exactly. So, and basically, the search engine suggested that this is not a thing, and that I meant full blood mother instead. And now that changed. So at least it's my Instagram that pops up now, and it's still asking whether I'm really sure I mean the father and not the mother. But at least there are a bunch of results now. And yeah, that's changing things one step at a time, right?
Go you for coining this new term and for actually leaving a trace online for this new word that I believe should have been there before. But yeah, good job on that. I think like all the listeners should now go to Google and Google Vollblutvater to check it out, and click on Lukas' website if you see it. We've talked a lot about you as a father, and you've also said that that's the main thing right now, that you see yourself in the shoes of being a father. What is something that you're doing not in your role as a father and without your child that you're still like doing now?
So right now I'm really in between being a father, working, and growing and doing stuff on social media, right? Because and that's a lot on my plate, to be honest. And so I don't use a lot of spare time right now to do anything besides that. What I really enjoy doing is also family time with my brother, with the family beyond our core family. But it's also family things, right? And I really want to get into running again. But I haven't figured it out yet, because it's always every day you have to plan it, to prioritize it. And we're still in the process, right? It has only been 3.5 months. So still learning.
Is there anything that you would like to leave our listeners with after listening to this episode? Any final thoughts or a wish?
My wish is just that you reflect on the type of dad you want to be, and also talk openly with the person you're having the kid with, whether they agree to the model you're having in mind, because no one should be forced to do anything that they don't want to do 100%.
Beautiful. I don't want to add anything to that, actually. Thanks a lot, Lukas, for being here. Thanks a lot for opening up, for sharing your journey as an equal parent. And again, make sure to follow Lukas. Make sure to follow us. Subscribe wherever you listen, so that you're always getting the new episodes to your feed. And it really supports the podcast as well. Because this way we can make more noise around the topic of men's health and hopefully inspire more men along the way. So that's been it. Thank you, everyone. Thank you all the listeners for joining. Thank you, Lukas, for being open and authentic with us, being part of this episode. And thank you, Soroosh, for amazing questions. And thank you to myself for setting up the set here all by myself today. I wanted to add something because you said that I sent you like the storyline of the podcast. The storyline was literally like 3 bullet points, because I don't want to leave the impression to the listeners that any of this is scripted. It's not. It felt really great. So thank you for being here, Lukas.
Thanks for having me. It was great talking to you. And keep up the great work. I find it really, really valuable. And thumbs up.
See you on the next one.
Bye-bye.
Ciao. Group hug.
How?
I don't know. Yeah, it works. Look,
It doesn't work, man.
it works on the screen if Lukas. See, now we have our group hug. Woo!
Do the ending handshake. Did we do the ending handshake at the other ones?
Not the online ones, because one time you were in a different location. How can I handshake you? Okay, I'll press.
Thank you, Lukas.
What's your favorite baby sound?
My favorite baby sound. That's the snoring. In the bed, it's really quiet, but sometimes in the carrier, it's a snore.
Previous one with Daily, we talked about tortoises or turtles.
I actually checked it out.
And the noise they make sounds a bit like snoring. Snoring and screaming or something like that. It's like